Hi, and welcome to TV My Husband Hates. I'm Kat Sims.
And I'm Reagan Kempton.
And we are reality TV addicts?
Addicts, aficionados?
Ooh, I like that. Experts.
Experts.
Basically, we know our shit when it comes to reality TV.
100%.
So before we move on to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, I'm really excited to introduce David Yontef, who's going to help us dissect this week's episode. David is the host of the uber popular reality TV podcast, Behind the Velvet Rope.
That's right. We're so excited to have David here. David is friends with all the reality TV stars and Bravolebrities and is never afraid to ask the questions that we all want to know.
That's right. So David, welcome. Thank you so much for being part of the show. How are you doing?
I am doing good. How are you guys doing today?
Hanging in there.
We're good too. We are. Yeah, we should mention that we are normally London and Colorado, and right now we've added in New York to the mix. This is literally the most international episode we've ever done.
Absolutely.
Seriously. And finding time zone that work for all three of us. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
I know you're on the coffee. I'm on the red wine.
I'm on the Coke.
So how are things in New York at the moment? Are things getting back to normal?
I mean, we've been semi-normal. It's strange because it's freezing in New York. It's cold. So there's no eating outside. There are some people that are still, I walk by and they're eating outside and I'm like, what? Like, I just stay home and order food. Like, it's literally, you're sitting there with 4 jackets on. I don't get it.
That's crazy.
Right. So it's like New York is not really normal. Like, there's eating inside, but you know, it's just for a city that is so busy, people have really left. They've either moved out or they've gone to like their second home with no chance of returning anytime soon. So like if you came, like when you go out to a restaurant at night and you walk in, it has a vibe. It is busy, but the average, like I look out my windows, I walk, I go to the grocery store. It's kind of like a ghost town in New York. It's very strange.
It's so weird. We went around London. We took our bikes around London town the other day and the traffic was still pretty busy, but like Covent Garden, Regent Street, Oxford Circus, dead. Like we could just cycle straight down the road. There was nobody there. It was the creepiest feeling.
It's kind of like that here. So it's strange. It's like you go to like the Village or like where people live and it's busy. And then you go to Times Square and it's dead because like New Yorkers aren't really going to Times Square to eat. There's other places and there's really no tourists. So it's like same thing. Like places you think would be so busy are just quiet. It's very weird.
Yeah, you make a good point, David, about it being cold, because obviously here in Denver, like there's snow on the ground now, like it's cold. And you're right, like we're not seeing the boom in restaurants that we had over the summer where everyone just moved outside and it was great. And now I feel like we're really seeing the impact of COVID on kind of our restaurant industry.
Totally. And like we still keep getting talks that we're going to shut down again. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is. And I mean, I think our numbers are okay. I don't even watch the news anymore. I'm like, just tell me on like an as needed basis, like if something is not going to be open, like I just can't keep up with the news. Like there's no sense in speculating. It's like, just tell me what's actually happening.
Well, we just got out of the second lockdown here in the UK and on Wednesday it was lifted, and yesterday they took pictures of people in Covent Garden and Regent Street, and it was like sardines, like jam packed, not one mask, hundreds of thousands of people, and I'm just like, what are you thinking? Anyway, listen, enough COVID chat. We're all sick to death of COVID chat. Reagan, you go ahead. You've got the first question. Let's get into Behind the Velvet Rope.
Yeah. So David, tell us a little bit about you and Behind the Velvet Rope and like how you got started.
I mean, I've done a lot of different things in life before becoming a full-time podcaster. I used to practice corporate tax law, if you can believe that. And yeah, that wasn't so exciting. And then I stopped doing that and I was in HR and recruiting. Like I had my own recruiting company. I sold that. So like really, to make a long story short, let's forget about all the degrees I have and all that stuff. The way I kind of started, I mean, it's great. Thank you all. But I mean,
you're like Wendy from Potomac. 4 degrees. I got 4 degrees.
Right. Like I have all these degrees, thank you, But anyway, when I just was like into reality TV right from the beginning. Like I loved, I mean, even The Real World, going back, like The Hills, Laguna Beach, like Simple Life. So I liked old school reality TV. So the fact that I was so into Bravo and Housewives isn't such a shocking thing. And then like when I sold my company and like I became, I had time on my hands, like I was just really into Bravo. And I was like, listen, I am going to become friendly with these people. Like, I don't understand. This isn't like Brad Pitt and Angelina. Like, these are real people. So I'm like, and listen, of course it helps living in New York City because you have like New York Housewives, New Jersey, Summer House. You have a lot of local shows. So I'm like, I'm just going to put myself where all these people are. And that's kind of what happened. Like, slowly I started becoming friends with all of these people that are on Bravo. And then I was like, well, these are like things happen when you hang out with these people. Like I'm looking around and I'm like, is everyone watching this? Because there's no cameras. It's off season. But what's happening right here? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. This one's going home with that one. This one is so drunk. These two are on the corner. And like, I think if I just started talking about this, somebody might want to listen. And then that's really the reason why I decided to start my podcast. That's where I came up with the name Behind the Velvet Rope. It's like, let me take you behind the velvet rope, not in an elitist way, but more like, I'm kind of like an insider, but I'm a fan as well. So all this crap that I'm watching, I'm just going to tell you all about it. I mean, obviously, if stuff is like really confidential, if someone's like, don't you dare repeat this, I'm filing for divorce in 3 months. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm not going to, ruin my status and like, I won't be invited back. So like, if it's really something, but there's enough fun stories that I was like, people might want to hear this. So I started my podcast because of that. My pilot episode was about a dinner I had. I was in Florida with Dolores Catania from New Jersey, Kelly Dodd from the OC, and Ramona Singer from New York. And yes, Rick Leventhal was there.
God.
That sounds amazing.
Right. It was like an event and I was there. And then afterwards, everyone was going to dinner and Dolores is like, come to dinner with us. And then just that dinner alone, I'm like, what? Like Ramona's literally just what you think. Ramona is literally has her first drink in front of her, ordered. Nobody else even sat down. She's like, I'm hungry. I'm sorry. I'm eating. Her food's on the way. Dolores is like, I'm not sitting next to her. Kelly and Rick are in their own world. And I'm just like, this alone is, so that was my pilot episode. And that's what I was like, I am onto something here,
For sure.
So that's kind of why I started it. It has morphed and it was 2 days a week. Nice. Let's have some fun 2 days a week. It has now morphed into a 5-day-a-week interview show with Bravolebrities. And a lot of it is non-Bravo too. Like, I mean, I would say 10% is non-Bravo. I guess that's not a lot. So it's really just turned into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You get your download. And today we have Kelly Dodd. Tomorrow we'll have Adela King from Ladies of London. Wednesday we'll have Patty Stanger from The Millionaire Matchmaker. Like, it's Bravo, present, past, main character, side character, whatever. It's a 5-day-a-week interview show now.
Wow.
Ladies of London is the one show that I do wish that they'd continued with. I loved Ladies of London. It was one of 100%. My favorites.
It's literally one of my favorites. So I'm really good friends with Adela King, who lived. That's how I knew that you guys were locked down, because Adela's in the UK. So she just told me,
right,
the lockdown was over. Ladies of London, I agree. If I had to bring any show back, that would be it. Like, we have a lot of Ladies of London coming up on Behind the Velvet Rope. We've had like Adela King. We had Adela on and we had Noelle Reno on. But we have a lot. Like, I don't want to give too much away, but just say we have like a lot more Ladies of London coming up. It's a great show.
So I have a question for you. You say that like you just put yourself where they were, but like how did you actually find out? Like, did you just stalk them? Were you following them on social media, turn up? Like, how did you make that happen?
Well, and I wrote a whole book on this. Now, the book is not out. COVID has, I don't know when it's coming out, but I wrote a whole book about like, if you want to become friends with a reality TV star, read this book. It's a how-to book. There's a lot of stories in there, but it's literally like, no, this is like not a joke. If you actually read this book and, you got to slow it down. Like, this takes a while. It's not like a magical fairy dust, but I took everything and I put it in this book. Yeah. Stalk is such a harsh word now, isn't it?
I loved From Very Close.
You're right.
But yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, listen, I've been called a stalker, not by Bravolebrities, but just by other people who have watched my actions and have like follow my social media. And I mean, listen, there's a lot of social media. You have to listen, it's exhausting. It's not
Yeah.
like, let's do
I'm
this. And
impressed.
everyone's like, oh, like I say that in the book over and over. I'm like, listen, you gotta, if you want this, you have to, it's slow down. It's going to take time, but it's a lot. Yes. You had to follow social media. It's organic. Like if you kept seeing the same people, but I have to say now it's like real life. It's a full circle because you put yourself in these situations. It's organic. You don't become friends with everyone. It truly is like, if personalities are involved, but then when you do, be careful what you wish for. Then it's like, wait a second, now I don't like you. Like now we've gotten to know each other. And
Oh, but who didn't you like? Tell me.
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? It's like you meet, like when you technically know all of them, you're like, well, I'm a person too. And like, wait a second,
Yeah.
like this has gone on too long. Like I know this was my goal, but now you're treating me like shit. And like, I'm not into this.
Yeah.
So it's literally full circle. Like I have people that I don't speak to. They don't really care to speak to me,
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I mean, it is sort of like a whole other world because we've obviously watched all of this for years and years and years. And I guess the thought of actually meeting any of them is so weird to us that it's so cool to know that you're like actually on the inside track, getting all the gossip firsthand.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like a snowball effect. Like this person from the OC. Well, now it's now like kind of happens organically. Like when there's new housewives or new people, it just kind of happens. But it is true. It's not like, oh, you don't like me. It's like, well, guess what? I don't like you either. So
Yeah.
we're moving on here. So it's just kind of like at the end of the day, you're kind of meant to be friends who you're meant to be friends with.
For sure. So who has been your favorite like interviewee so far? Like who was the best person?
I mean, I would say there's a couple. I mean, I think so. I do a lot of 2-part interviews. Like if you come on, here's my thing. If you come on my show and we're just in the middle of it, I'm not going to end it after an hour. So and listen, there's a lot of normal 1-hour shows, but once we get past an hour and a half, that's when I'm like, okay, let's just keep going. We're going to have 2 parts here. So I think my 2-part interview with Tamara Judge from the OC is one of my favorites. I think, well, a lot of people love Tamara. A lot of people hate her. So it's kind of like this in between, like, love or hate. I think Tamara doesn't care. She said a lot of stuff that went viral and got in the press, but it's always an interesting chat. She was having a beer. So anytime someone's drinking, you're like, sip up, honey, sip up. So that was one of my better ones. And just, because she's been on the show for so long, the longer we talked, the longer I was like, well, now I have even more questions. Like there was just so much material to pull from. And it was right after she was let go. So it was also like right afterwards. And she was still hostile, like just, like what's going on. And I really do like Tamara. So I mean, loved chatting with her. I think another one, random, I know, but like Randall Emmett, like Lala's Randall.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have the biggest crush on Randall Emmett.
Sure.
The biggest, like,
you
know how
should.
people couldn't get why Lala was with him. I fully got that straight off the bat.
I don't know if I got it off the bat, but after chatting with him, I mean, I have to say, he doesn't do a lot of podcasts. So just the fact that he is literally like, he doesn't understand that he's Randall Emmett. Like he's an actual director and producer. Like you're on the PJ with Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox, which is bigger than any Vanderpump, whatever. So, but he is the nicest, most genuine, real person. So it's just one of those where it's like, I'm just bonding with you as a person. His follow-up was great. We've kept in touch. Just like, I'm like, how are you? Right. Same thing afterwards. I was like, I get why Lala fell in love with you. Like, you're like the nicest, most caring man ever. So that's just one of those where I was like, this guy's probably going to be a pain in the ass and it's going to be 20 minutes. And it was like another 2-parter. The second part isn't even out yet. Like we just talked forever.
That's amazing. God, I love that. I love that because it's, I guess what I'd also like to know is which of the people that you've met have kind of disappointed you? Like the ones that you really thought you would get on with and actually didn't in the end, or felt like let down by them?
Because I have to say, there's people that I thought would let me down, and they did. So there is that category where it's like, you're a big name and I want you on my show, but I'm not these. I could care less. This is going to be a pain in my ass. There's that, but who was I really? Because I have to tell you, you have all the categories. There are people you're not even. Here's an example of someone I was not even remotely excited to talk to. I mean, I know that's maybe an overstatement, but Vanderpump Rules, we had all the newbies. The smallest newbie that got no screen time was Charlie. I mean, in the end, she did. But it's not like I wasn't excited to talk to her, but I was like, how am I going to fill an hour? Like, she was barely on the thing. Okay, can I just tell you, Charlie is my highest rated episode in the history of my podcast.
Wow.
Because she came on and she was just like, yeah, like this was a horrible experience. She's like, Mean Girls, Stassi wouldn't, none of them would speak to her when the cameras stopped rolling. They had no interest in her. She was like, Katie did this. So she was just, and then the thing is, that episode came out like the day after Stassi and Kristen got fired. So it was like people were like adding fuel to the fire, and it went viral. And I was like,
amazing.
There you go. Never judge a book by its cover. But I'm trying to think of who I was really excited for. And I'm just like, well, you know what it is? It's not that I wasn't excited. Sometimes there's people involved. Like if someone's currently on Bravo, like a current housewife, a lot of times Bravo is involved and they want to sit in on the call. So it's like, sometimes you're just like, it's not that I can't go there, but you're just like, if you go there, there's going to be an interruption and someone's going to be like, please don't ask that again. I'm like, great. Now I have to edit this. And now you've just given me more. So like when someone's on the line listening, I try to just be like, okay, we're going to have a nice, happy show. And I had to do this before. I'm like 7 questions that I want to get to, I now can't get to. And like that's happens. I've had to pivot during interviews so many times. I had someone recently, it's not out yet, but it's someone and I just had all these drama questions. I mean, it was at least 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. And I was going to go there. And I asked the first question and she just was like, very nice. But she's like, we're not going to talk about that at all. And it was something that I don't. Yeah. And I was just like, I had to you try like one more little time. And then you're like, okay, now I have to just somehow fill 20 minutes.
Right.
And I'll do it. But, so I've had to do that a lot too, where just someone's like, we're not going there.
And what's the biggest gossip you've ever got on the show? Like, have you ever had like an exclusive drop, something where you've been like, wow, nobody knew that. I'm the first to get that. Have you ever had that moment?
I feel like when I get it, sometimes I don't know it. Do you know what I mean? Like I get it, but like the Charlie thing, like when she was going through this Mean Girls, at some point during it, I was like, this is interesting, but I didn't think it was like that shocking. Cause like, that doesn't really shock me that like you would show up to film and you'd be standing literally right next to Stassi and you would say, good morning. And she would turn her back on you.
Oh yeah.
But if you think about it, right. But if you think about it, that is shocking. So then like nobody knew that. I mean, Charlie never said that before. And she said all this stuff before the reunion, like Jax would stalk me and this and that, and like berate me, like, which she kind of went on at the reunion, but this was all before that. So like, it's not even that I found it that interesting. I mean, I kind of did, but then when I listened to it back and then it came out and then the media was involved, I was like, this is really breaking this story. It's shocking. I mean, I just recently had, which again, I didn't even think this was anything. I had EJ Jansen. He's from Below Deck, like 5 seasons ago. I don't even know if you know. So, I mean, I was like, okay, whatever. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I put his episode out, because it's not like it's first in, first out. I have a programming scenario. I could record you and then you're not going out for a while. But I was like, okay, this is EJ, Below Deck. Let's put him out the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It's a nice little show. But then like when I listened to it, he said, because he has, I guess, an online course that he trains people to go into the yachting. So like Hannah Ferrier has that same type of course. It's not a big deal. I knew that, but he said some innocent thing about like, well, I don't know. Hannah has the course now and she used my like same picture, and like she basically stole my course, and I reached out to her and she basically told me don't ever reach out. It was one of these things that I thought was like, it's a story, but it's like EJ. It's not like Captain Lee, like you're not on the show now.
Right.
But there's an example. And then it came out and it went insane. People are like, and Hannah got involved. Hannah was then on social media.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And it was all about my podcast. Like, did it? And so it's like, and I'm like, oh, I really did break this story. So a lot of times it's, you don't know you're doing it. I mean, I guess also then like I do have times where I do know I'm doing it. Like I had Claudia Jordan on recently from Real Housewives of Atlanta, but she was also on Celebrity Apprentice. So before we even got to Real Housewives of Atlanta, I'm like, you know, I need to talk to you about like Donald Trump. Like I just want, and she went off and listen, Claudia goes off. And, you know, she's like, he tried to kiss me twice. And when you get invited on his private jet, this is what happens. And Melania cheats. And Ivanka's his favorite because she's really pretty. And Eric is like, she just said all this stuff that when she was saying.
I saw this. I remember this.
Yeah. And so
I remember this exploding on social media.
Yeah. So that was the type of thing. I'm like, whether this is true, whether it's breaking a story, like as I'm so trained now that I've done this for so long that as certain people are saying things, like if the Charlie thing happened now, I would sit there and be like, okay, this is going to blow up. It's almost like, but when Claudia was saying this, I was like, this is going to go insane. This is going to go everywhere. Like saying like Ivanka's his favorite because she's the prettiest. I'm like, there's the headline right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, but I'm just like, so I know when people say things now, I'm like, oh, this is going to go wild.
For sure. So what, out of all of the reality TV moments of your life of watching the shows, which one is your favorite? Do you have a favorite moment?
Ever?
Oh,
wow. I don't know.
We have put you on the spot
past 5 years. Past 5 years.
I mean, do you have a favorite ever? I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, I'm not trying to be.
I think honestly, one of my most memorable ones was the first season of New Jersey when like Teresa flipped her shit and flipped.
Yeah, I was just. It's funny. I was gonna.
I was gonna say that.
Wow. Like, well, that's crazy then. That's crazy that we were all gonna say that.
Well, that was like the first, I think that was like one of the first instances of like somebody really going proper batshit crazy, like violent batshit crazy table flipping. And I mean, it was kind of a landmark moment in reality TV and has been ever since, I guess.
Yeah, like if you really think about it, because I mean, literally that's what I was going to say too. And it's almost like, yeah, I mean, that's become an iconic moment and you were like almost scared at that time. I mean, because we didn't even have Mob Wives then. Like, I don't know if you watch Mob Wives, but that came after.
Oh, but I love Mob Wives.
Right. So I'm also, you talk about my favorite interviews. I'm also friends with Karen Gravano from Mob Wives, Sammy the Bull's daughter. So she came on my show and I'm friends with her. So out of respect, it's not like one of my top rated episodes. Anytime something's a little bit off center from Bravo, it doesn't rate as well, but there's some of the best interviews. So Karen came on. I mean, it was Mob Wives, it's still related. And since we're friends, like out of respect, I talked to her on the phone before and I was like, she's like, nothing is off limits. So like, we are literally sitting there and cause I'm just interested in things like Karen's life just is what it is. So to me, we were talking about murder as if it was like going to the supermarket, which I found very interesting. Just like, you know, how did you, like you're sitting there at breakfast and your father comes home from whatever. And like that's your life. Like there's no shade. Like that's all you know. And so it was just so interesting just to hear from someone who that's their life. And Karen is like the sweetest, most wonderful. I just am so fascinated because it's so foreign to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the table flip because
it's crazy.
Yeah. Like maybe now the table flip wouldn't be anything, but then it was a big moment.
Well, I think it was a big moment because it was also so raw. Like that was before they were kind of self-conscious, before they really knew what to expect. Like that was just Teresa in a rage in the moment. And I think that's what made it so special was like, that was a real gut reaction that happened.
Yeah, it was crazy to watch.
Now the hindsight with like knowing about social media and all that, like, you know, that stuff is tempered now, like, or it's either prodded or it's tempered. It's held back because they don't want to be seen as that anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't know. That first season, she just let it fucking go.
Yeah. It was baby Teresa. It was Teresa before she grew up and got all PR'd.
Yes.
No, it was great. Well, listen, let's move on to the episode that we're going to talk about this week, which is, of course, the latest in the brand newest franchise from Bravo, which is, of course, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Tell me, why did you choose? Because we gave you a choice of all the shows to discuss, and you chose this one. Tell me why you chose this one.
And I watched them all. So listen, it was a hard decision, but I feel I've had so many guests on my show from all the shows. I've had Southern Charm, Below Deck, Potomac. I forgot what your other choices were, but I don't know. Like Salt Lake is just new. I know someone from Salt Lake. We'll get into which one I know, but like I haven't had any guests on, and I'm just like, it's something I haven't really talked about. I just did a Patreon episode, which will be similar to this, with all my thoughts on Salt Lake. I just figured I just want to talk about it because I feel it's polarizing, and I've heard, listen, if someone loves it, that doesn't shock me. And if someone hates it, that doesn't shock me either. Like, it's just, to me, I could see it both ways. So I'm just curious to hear what other people think. And I do have a lot to say about it. And I have things to say about the ratings. I just got a lot to say.
I'm excited. So let's start off, because obviously this week we pick it back up at Whitney's 20s party, where Jen comes in lit. Like, she is raging. Like,
she's the most extra I've ever seen.
But so extra. What do you think is going on there with her?
Honestly, if you want my honest opinion, this is a problem. And then at the end, I'll tell you whether I'm one of the ones that loves it or hates it. This is the problem I have with Salt Lake in general. And this is the problem I have specifically with Jen. I think we're at the point where, like, you all know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. Like, we're 15 seasons in. We have a new franchise. And Jen wants this. I think she's thirsty as a person. She wants fame. She wants the show to go on forever, which I don't blame you. I'm not criticizing that. I mean, I have a podcast because I started as a fame whore, wanting to become friends with the Real Housewives. So I'm not judging. I'm just saying it doesn't come across, like, she, to me specifically, doesn't come across as authentic. I think everything she's doing is like the cameras say action and she's trying really hard. That's the problem. There's been too much already. I think every week she's trying to bring another thing to it, which, if that was really her, I would love her. I would be like, this, you're like, where you come from. I love you. I just don't think any of it's authentic. That's just
well, it's like talking about Teresa earlier. We never are going to get, with new franchises, the baby versions of them. Like you say, they're coming in fully prepped, fully PR'd, fully ready. And it's interesting you say that, because I hadn't thought about it in that way, that she is kind of playing up to this and making this for drama's sake, essentially. But it makes perfect sense.
And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, see, I was wondering, because I mean, for me, I feel it comes from like a really needy place with her. Like, she's very needy with Meredith. She's very needy with like the people who are close. She wants them like up her ass. But also, her husband is fucking gone all the time. Right. And her kids are gone all the time. Like, she has nobody. And like, in some ways, it's just really sad. So maybe it's not fully her, but I feel like there are definite aspects of her that are this needy and like need other people in this way.
Yeah.
Well, and she also has this really annoying habit that people have of kind of expecting this blind loyalty from friends. Like, I don't care whether I'm right or wrong, you stand up for me. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Listen, if you're my friend, my role is this. I'm going to tell you when you're being a bitch, or when you're fucking up, or when you're doing something wrong. And I'm not going to just, I'll be there for you. But she's expecting Meredith to be on her side. All over this, I can't even begin to talk to you about the fucking hospital smell thing with Mary, which just blows my mind that this is the thing that it's become.
Like, that's where I go. That's what makes no sense to me. So it's like, episode 1, you have a problem with a hospital smell. Now we have you getting upset with Meredith. Like, it just, I don't know. It's like, there's been too many things. And maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like she's looking for drama every week to try to be the breakout star of this show.
Which
It
I
just-
don't think
Yeah, she wants.
she is. I actually think that's what
No.
turns people off from her. I think there are other people who
Who
definitely.
do you think is the breakout star then?
I mean,
Heather,
every week
hands
I'm
down,
more in love
Heather.
with Heather, for sure.
Okay, I mean, I could see that.
I also think Whitney
Heather,
is a
but
bit of a
also
dark
Whitney.
horse.
Like, I think Whitney is like a.
I think
I also think Whitney's like a quiet. Yeah.
she has potential, Whitney, I think. Like, in a way, she is the one that I kind of skip over the most. But I just did my Patreon episode on this, and the two guests I had, like, we were all over the place. Like, it was just me. Like, Whitney, they loved Whitney. But the more guests that I watch her and listen to her, I'm like, she could be a dark horse, and like she might have legs to like there might be more there. She's not grandstanding, but she's also got a lot to say every time she's at the camera.
Yeah.
What about you, David? Who do you think's the breakout star?
I mean, okay, but this again, when I did my Patreon, I was like shot down. So this isn't the popular opinion, but there's something about, and it's not because of Brooks, there's something about Meredith. She's like Dorit, like the way she talks. No, these two guys I had on my Patreon hated Meredith. They hated her.
I can't bear her.
Well,
lot
we
of
like
people
her more
can't.
than Lisa. I mean, I hate Lisa more than I hate Meredith, for sure.
I know. She's awful too.
There's just, I don't know why, like I'm intrigued. There's something about Meredith. I don't know why. I think it's the way that she speaks. It's like Dorit. It's like, this is not the way a normal person speaks.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that'd be-
But
It's
also,
like-
really
let's
good
talk
point.
about Brooks. Let's talk
Yes.
about Brooks though, because that's fucking weird, isn't it?
He's a psycho.
Well, how so? Because there's like a lot. How so, I guess.
We thought it
So
was
interesting.
Really...
So
Go ahead.
you go, Ray. Okay, so I'm not speaking, you go.
So we thought the way like he spoke to his mom about her friends was just really not okay. Like, we're both moms. If any one of our kids spoke to us that way, it's not happening. It's like we're grown-ass women. We can hang out with who she wants. She was really rude about Jen. But he also came across really like dead behind the eyes. It wasn't like because he cared about her. It was just like he needed to control the situation. So it was just
Interesting.
Yeah, it felt
sociopathic.
a little threatening. It felt a little threatening. It was like, you're not going to do that, are you? It felt a bit like he was going to turn into the guy in Sleeping with the Enemy that puts all the cans facing forward. Like, it was really sinister. I walked away going, if my kid spoke to me like that, like, I'd be putting him up for adoption.
It was very reminiscent of like Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son, where like he pretended to be like this really, angelic child and then was like murdering people on the side.
And I mean, Brooks took a semester off. You could spin it how you want. He took a semester off to film The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Yeah. We
can say on the TV that it was because his mother was alone, but you took a semester off to film a Bravo TV show. So
yeah.
Let's be real.
But that's what I mean. It's like you're too aware. The whole cast is too aware that like this could blow you up and change your life. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So it's not, I don't know.
It's feeling, I think it's feeling too contrived, right? It's feeling like they're not in it. I mean, I think the beauty of the early shows was that nobody really knew what they were in, right? They had no idea how this was going to be perceived or how it was going to blow up, what it was going to mean for them in their lives or their jobs, careers. So now that you do know that, there is a level to it that, you're right, kind of undermines that authenticity. And I suppose it's interesting to see you come to it with a slightly more cynical view, which I hadn't really picked up on before. But I feel like I'm right there with you now. I feel like you basically just ruined it for me, David.
I did, because now, and I'm not saying I don't like it, because that's a whole nother conversation. But like, to me, the real like offenders, like I think Jen is the worst as far as trying. I think Whitney is probably authentic. Like I think I don't feel, and then She's not my favorite. I don't know either. Here's my thing. Mary is either really authentic and
Yeah.
and she's really not trying and she really is clueless about
Right.
everything, or she's batshit fucking crazy, like off her rocker. Like
I
there
think it's
are
option 2.
yeah,
for sure.
like there are like, all the housewives are a little off, but then there's maybe, 5 in the real world that they're just like certifiable. You need to be locked up. I think Mary might be one of the more crazy housewives we ever had. Like, I just think now when she was leading that sermon and at the church, I was like, this all makes sense. Like, you're amazing at your job. Like, bravo. Like, I think you're great at your job. It all made sense. I thought I was very impressed, but I think Mary might be certifiably crazy.
I agree. And I think, who else, you mentioned there's probably 5 that you would call certifiably crazy. Would you put like Ramona Singer on there?
No. I mean, but no, I mean like a Danielle Staub from Jersey is like I mean,
yeah.
Right.
Or like what's her face from New York? Kelly?
Ben Simone?
Yeah.
I'm just staying silent on that one. Don't forget, I know everyone of all these people, but no, I mean, like Ramona, I think she's a horrible human being, but I don't think she's crazy. Like, I think, like, because Ramona gets how it works. Like when she's like, well, this is, who's probably going to be, like, Ramona gets how housewives work. Like, she's aware of it and she's pretty smart. Yeah, like I don't know. Like I think something about Mary that she just seems like
I agree.
Really. And so when the season started, they paired each of the girls up with a New Jersey girl to do an Instagram live. Like, I don't know. I forgot who like Dolores had and like Margaret had someone, but Teresa had Mary. So I happened to just be on Instagram and right. And so like when they were doing it, it was like the way for like the new girl to ask the older Jersey person. And they probably use Jersey because it'll come back in February, like give them some screen time. And like when they were on together, I mean, Teresa had a minute of not knowing how to work her IG, whatever. But like Mary was just like, this isn't being filmed. It's like you're real. She was like asking Teresa, like, yo, like, how does this all work? And like, I don't know. Like Mary just talks and you're like, I don't even understand. Like, there's no full sentence in there. There's like no sentence. So she was just like saying to Teresa, like, yeah, and like how and like what? Like Teresa's like, ask me anything. This is your chance. And like, and Mary was just like, how is the ride? And I'm like, I really think she's crazy. Like, for real. It's like I'm no shade. I think she might literally be out there.
I mean, I feel like if you are that like entrenched in that kind of revivalist religious place, because I mean, it was like wasn't it her grandmother's church before she took it over?
Yeah.
I feel like that definitely has some lasting effect on your mental stability and even your like sphere of reference. Because I mean, if this is all you know of like what life should be, like you have no sense of reality.
That's what I mean.
I'm going to put it out there as well. Like, I think there's going to be some trauma from the whole, by the way, you now have to marry your step grandfather thing and you're really young. And, I think that's pretty dark. Like, she's kind of in a new place now and she's figured it out or whatever. But I think at the time when she was 19, 20 and that was happening, that was probably quite a terrifying thing.
Well, also, I mean, that's why her mother doesn't speak to her.
Yeah.
Because she inherited the church.
So
and then that
just power dynamic.
Yeah. And then it just goes back to like organized religion and is it real or is it all about money, which is a whole nother conversation.
Well, I mean, when your pastor's, rocking the Louboutins and the Gucci, like, where that money comes from.
Right. So that's just like a whole, like, are you and your mother fighting over the grandfather? Or are you fighting over the money? Like, it's just, it's
money,
all.
Sure.
Yeah. I think we can all agree it's definitely the money. I think it's like money, grandfather, God is like, that's their list of priorities.
Look at the amount of money she splashed down for this lunch that they went on. And like, they all had like Louis Vuitton journals and whatever. Like, again, if all your money is coming from one place.
Right. That's when you're. that's when your God is good because
Yes.
I mean, that's where it's like, yeah. But so when she was doing her job, I was like, well, I had a moment of like, you make sense up there. It's just the rest of the time, I think she's batshit.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Absolutely.
she always needs to be in church.
Let's talk a little bit about Meredith because she is fascinating, whether you love her or hate her. And this situation that she has with her husband. Tell us what you think about that, David. Like, tell us what you think is going on.
Well, the fact that they're separated now.
And
they're
only
sort of
dating each
separated,
other.
but they're dating each other.
And only each other. Wasn't that what was said? Like, we're only dating each other. Like, do we think that's a real thing?
Well, again, I mean, this is the same thing I've said about, I don't even want to get into who, because like, this is the thing. I go on other podcasts and I say things and it's like, and then people come after me.
Right.
Not just like the actual people, the actual
Right,
human being
right.
comes after me of like, what? I mean, all I have to say is anything that is like a real situation, I'm interested in. Anything that's just like made up for a storyline. There's lots of people that do it. I'm just like, I don't get it. So if I don't understand how we get here, if it's real, and then is this real?
Yeah, I would agree with you on
Interesting.
that because part of me is like, if it was real, you obviously knew this was before the show. Like, so would you choose to be on the show if you're having this like real struggle in your marriage? I don't know.
Right.
It's dark, man.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's my only, and I'm not even saying I don't like it. I'm aware that people are trying, but I'm also aware that people are trying like the on the OC for me this season. For me personally, I think numerous people are also trying to be over the top and make a good TV show.
Yeah.
So I have the same problem with the OC this season. It doesn't feel
Interesting.
Whereas like to me, you watch New York and I'm like, no, this is real. Like we like have a fight, a meltdown, get completely drunk, hate each other, we'll never speak again and are best friends within one night. But it's kind of real. I don't think anyone's really trying. Do you know what I'm saying? And I feel the OC trying too hard this season. That's just me.
What about Potomac? What about Potomac? Do you think that's another one that's trying too hard, or do you think that one's fairly
Well, I think
authentic?
the whole physical altercation thing is real. I mean, that I don't think was like, let's try.
No, I think that was real too.
That Potomac seems more real to me with maybe one or two. Like it's more real than the others. I don't think they're trying as much.
Yeah, I agree. I like Potomac. It's actually kind of a dark horse for me. I think it's one of my favorites.
For sure.
Yeah.
But then you also look at like Below Deck this season, and I feel like nobody's trying on that show. So I'd rather people over try than like not give a shit.
Well, it's like the ratings for every show are down, that's what I don't understand. Like, are we tired of it all? Are people housewife fatigue? Like, how are the ratings for everything down during COVID? I don't know.
Well, I wonder if they've been, because I think they've been really up. Like during the first wave of COVID, I think ratings were really, really up across the board. But I think now people are just over being in fucking tracksuit bottoms watching reality TV. I think they're sort of itching to get back to like normality. So I think maybe that a lot of people are stepping back from it. But I mean, how's Salt Lake City doing in the ratings? You mentioned that earlier. Is it doing well?
It's doing horrible.
Is it?
So like the premiere, so this is the thing, the premiere, like 1.2 million people watch the OC, which is down for the OC. And then 775,000 people watched Salt Lake. So 500,000 people that were watching the OC didn't watch Salt Lake.
Like they turned their TV off because it was one after another, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So like they changed the channel. They didn't just
and like I don't know how all the ratings work and like playback and recording, but like to me, I mean, see, I like, despite my criticisms, I like Salt Lake. I like it, but The only thing I can think, this is my analysis, because to me, I like the Salt Lake better than the OC right now.
Yeah, I'd
It's
agree
more
with that.
interesting. I just think this is what I think. I think that at the end of the day, there's like a lot of people watch Bravo that are not diehards like us. Like they will tune in for Below Deck or they have their favorite shows. I even know people, because I talk to a lot of them. I even know people that will go down Housewives and say, oh, yeah, I watch New York and Beverly Hills and New Jersey, but I don't watch anything else. So it's like people are not like, I love Housewives and I watch them all.
Right.
The only thing I mean, and then there's, us diehards that watch it all. The only thing I can think is that it's Housewives fatigue, because if you think about it, it's the same show. I mean, it's completely different with cities, but it's the same show. And there's so many of them that I think if you're even remotely fatigued, it's just easy to be like, I don't want to get to know 6 new people. It's just very simple.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to start. That's what I think. It's just if you're already sour or you're not sure on the others, you're just like, let's not even start this new show.
And I think maybe with Salt Lake,
now they're all like
got
overlapping as well. Whereas before there used to be very like distinct times off from the Housewives. There were like breaks of a couple of weeks, but now it's like, I mean, Atlanta starts tonight.
Yeah.
And so is the finale of Potomac. And it's just like,
right.
And we've got OC and we've got Salt Lake. We got like 4
It's too much. And the only other thing I can think, I mean, I think that's really what it is. The fact that like people are housewife fatigue. But the other thing I think it is even though it was promoted so well and like all the trailers that dropped made it look phenomenal. Like if you're not a diehard, I think all you hear is Salt Lake and you're like, what? No thanks.
Yeah. It's like
that's what I think. Like, is it a great, to me, it's a great location. I love the whole Mormon side of it.
Yeah.
I love the snow. We have everything is always in the summer. I love the snow. It's like the way that they have their like taglines with snow. It's great to see a winter setting, but I just think if you're not like a diehard, of course you hear New York, Beverly Hills. I don't even think the OC would get off the ground today if it were a new show. People would be like, what?
No.
I just, like Jersey, okay, you have Jersey Shore, Mob Wives, you have like that like Jersey thing going on, even though that was Staten Island. I just think a lot of people here, like we in the beginning, all of us said like Salt Lake, no thank you. Yeah. And then after it was explained, we're like, oh, totally on board. I just think if you're not a diehard fan, you never really paid attention to the trailer and all you hear is Salt Lake City. And you're like, why would I ever watch the Housewives of Salt Lake? That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
You see, it's funny because immediately I was into it because I was like, well, that's Mormons. Like that gives it a different angle for me. And I'm really interested to watch that. So Salt Lake for me was like, absolutely, I'm in. But actually watching it, I feel like really the only full Mormon is Lisa. Am I right? Like, is she because Whitney's not in it. Heather's out.
Well,
Jen's
Lisa, but
Meredith's Jewish.
Lisa was born, and Lisa was born Jewish too.
But she's
now the only one that's a Mormon in the show. So I feel like the one kind of USP of this franchise isn't really going to be fully exploited anyway.
Right. And let's face it, if this goes on for more seasons, I think the religion won't even be in it. You know what I mean? By like season 3, this will be phased out and we'll have like a real show outside of the religion. So, I mean, do you like it overall? Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people do not like it.
I mean, I like it, but then I think I just love the Housewives. So I'm not that discerning, if I'm honest. Like if it's a Housewives show, I'll watch it and I'll probably enjoy it. The only one recently that I've absolutely hated and resented having to watch every minute of was the last season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, because I swear to God, it felt like it went on for longer than COVID. Like it was awful.
It was 26 episodes. It was 26 episodes long.
Wow. And it was so boring and so dull. And Nene was in and out. And I hated every minute of it. But this show, I'm also like, it's still episode 3, 4, whatever it is. So I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt at this stage. And I find there are some real characters that I love. Like Heather, I love. Like I love that she has her head screwed on. She's like the voice of reason, but she's also got this like weird kind of fucked up side with her like attachment to the church and how she'd rather be in a bad marriage than be a bad Mormon, which I find like fascinating.
That was what I liked. Most shocking scenes I've ever seen. I thought where she was like,
me too.
Where they were like, "Would you? So you should have stayed in your bad marriage." She was like, "Absolutely." I'm like, "Wait, what? What? Really?"
Yeah.
Like, and she was like dead serious. And I'm like, "You're just really sad right now in life. Like, you wish you were still married."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I really like it too. I think it's better than a lot of the franchises that are on. I just think like, so people were tweeting and they were like, please, Andy, move this to, I mean, first of all, Andy Cohen does not control the programming and what time it goes on. I think people forget that, but they're like, please move this not to 10 o'clock. People are saying that's why it's getting bad ratings. You know, we don't want to, and Andy's like, what are you worried about? It's a huge hit. But like, of course you're going to say that. And even if you're not going to say that, the network is going to call you and tell you to send that tweet.
Yeah.
It's like Andy Cohen does not decide whether something is canceled or not at Bravo. So I just think like maybe they'll let it grow. I mean, they've let like Summer House grow. They've given other shows a chance, but like, I don't know, 500,000, if that's where it stays, it ain't coming. It's not going to be around too long.
Yeah.
No,
I
I think it'll grow. I think
what was Miami when they finally pulled Miami?
Way higher,
Yeah.
way higher than this. So yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that means it's going to go away,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
Miami
no,
was
for sure.
way higher.
Yeah, and they pulled that, didn't they?
I love
Yeah, I mean,
Miami too.
I did too.
I mean, it makes sense. I think Miami, they like it could, they should have done it differently and it could have been on.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a great setting. It's an interesting city. You have the whole like Miami. It's the whole like J-Lo.
It seems like a perfect choice.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. So I think that, I don't know. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But I mean, some suit is not going to care about the legacy of the Housewives. They're going to be like, this show is canceled. I don't want to hear another word about it.
Right. Move on.
Yeah.
Bring me another one.
But you look at other shows like Summer House went from like nothing to now it's a legitimate show. Like sometimes they give a show a chance to grow. But I don't know. Like I personally don't understand, other than the two things I said, why the ratings would be that low. I don't get it.
I mean, in general, it's not something that I know, but in general, I mean, maybe shows just are lower ratings at first, and then they grow. The more that the characters are in the press, the more that the blogs pick up on it, the more that it hits social media, then it's like it starts to grow. So maybe they have to give it some time for it to like feed into the zeitgeist.
I will also say it is on super late Mountain Time, which is Utah and Colorado time. Like it's on at like 11 o'clock at night here. So it's late.
Oh, wow.
Like I don't, I mean, I record it and watch it the next day. So if they're only taking live ratings, that's a huge issue right there, is that it's actual, like where it's from.
So
People
maybe
aren't
like
staying
when
up
they
that late.
do the other ratings, it's actually higher than that, but those are, you know,
Yikes.
but it's better than the OC. I think the OC is
I'd agree
having
with you.
a completely off season. I think the OC, I don't even know. I mean, honestly, I have my own versions of what they should do with the OC. I mean, personally, I think, because I've been interviewing a lot of like the old school OC people. I mean, they're not, this will never happen, but I think you just need to scrap the whole damn thing and just bring back like 5 old timers or 6 old timers and just start over. And not even people,
David.
Well, the thing is, like,
If
there's
it
a lot
was
of people.
up to you, if you were casting the show,
because these are my buddies.
I know.
Keeping my personal relationships with all these my friends out of it. I mean, okay, you got to bring back Tamara.
Yeah.
I would bring back, I've said this for years. I mean, she's very happy in life. I don't think she would come back. They'd have to pay her a shitload of money, but I would bring back my good friend, Miss Jesus Jugs, who's a very good friend of mine, Alexis Polino.
Yeah.
The thing is, Alexis's life is different. She's not married.
Right.
There's a lot going on. I would bring her back.
Okay.
Who else? I mean, never my. I would bring back Heather Dubrow. I mean, I would bring back her.
Too.
Yeah.
Then I mean, it's not my favorite housewife. But she's certainly got a lot going on in life. I'd bring back Megan King Edmonds. Not really such a fan, but her life has changed so much. She just broke up with her boyfriend again, the new one.
Right.
So she's got a lot going on, Megan. And then no, I'm gonna pass on Lizzie. I would pass on Lydia. Who else would I bring back?
Did you bring back Gretchen?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gretchen's cool. I mean, I miss Gretchen. And what was her
I
weird
don't miss
husband?
Slade.
Slade? Was it Slade?
Oh, Slade.
Oh. And then of course, the number one person I would bring back, who I just spoke to recently, is I bring back Joe De La Rosa.
Ooh.
Oh.
Because she was like first 2 seasons, right?
You have your 6 right there. That would be my 6. And if I had to take one of those out, maybe I would take out Gretchen, maybe.
Yeah.
But
So you
Joe,
would keep nobody.
I would keep nobody.
Interesting.
I think
Really? Nobody at all?
if you're going to be shocked by process of elimination, like who's the one person you would keep? And I'll tell you who is mine, and you'll be shocked at mine. Not even my favorite person. It's just literally process of elimination. I can tell you who I would keep.
In the OC now.
'Cause
Reagan, who would you keep?
I think there's going to be I think for sure Kelly and Shannon are gone after this season.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
For
well, I don't
sure.
see Rick like signing off on being on the show any more than he is now.
I think they're going to get rid of maybe even 3 people. I think definitely those 2. But there's only one that I think is worth keeping, and I don't even think this person's so great. I just think process of elimination, I would keep one.
Is it Bronwyn?
No.
Gina?
Is it Elizabeth?
Yeah, it's Gina.
Gina.
I'd keep Gina. I'm really interested to see where Gina's going to go in life.
She's getting more interesting if you really focus. And she's also just doesn't, like, she's herself.
Doesn't care. Yeah.
I mean, but to me, Kelly and Shannon, whether you like them or not, it's played out. Like there's nothing fresh. Shannon got an extra season because of Vicky and Tamara. But Shannon, there's nothing left. She was great. Loved her.
Because I think she really could have made this season like hers.
It's the same
she just
old.
Like withered. Yeah.
Same old. And Kelly, same old.
Mm-hmm.
Same old. Then you have all this hate towards her. So I've had a dinner with Emily in New York. She's a wonderful person as a human being, but
it's not very interesting.
Sometimes the nicest people don't make the best TV.
For sure. Yeah.
And
I
then,
have to say though,
what do you think of Bronwyn?
Elizabeth.
Yes, and that's the other thing. Like Elizabeth, so now that I'm thinking of it, maybe I would give Elizabeth Elizabeth has
I'd keep her.
She's grown on me. She's actually grown on me.
I feel like Elizabeth is one of the very few new housewives that have come into it at this point with all this kind of previous knowledge and is still kind of real. Like she's not fully PR'd yet.
Yeah.
I think she is being kind of as if this was old school reality TV.
Yeah.
And I was really gutted when I saw the picture of her and when I saw who they cast, and I was like, oh God, it feels like just another cookie cutter character, and I don't want anything to do with her. But actually, she is way more interesting. She's got a lot going on. I'd like to see her in a couple more seasons.
Yeah, I want her to. She's grown. I said the same thing. I was like, ugh, in the beginning, I was like, I'm bored. But I agree. I do not think she's trying to be famous and act a certain way. I think this is truly her, and that I like her. And I think the same with Gina. Like those are the 2. Well, it's funny how you guys wouldn't keep Bronwyn. I mean, I am okay not, but I just think it's funny that you agree with me.
I mean, I think what she's doing is important. I think it's interesting to see sobriety at such a close-up level and like seeing somebody work through it in kind of real time. But like that's all it is.
Well, Kelly just said on Watch What Happens
that it's bullshit, right?
Yes. Which
really?
Yeah.
What, her alcoholism is bullshit, or the sobriety is bullshit?
That the alcoholism is bullshit, I think.
Yeah, that the alcoholism was bullshit, and because she's just recently come out as a lesbian, that's bullshit too.
I mean,
I am not going to comment, and also don't forget, in addition to those 2 things, don't forget that there's a son who now wants to do drag. Those are 3 stories that are pretty interesting, big, unconventional, all 3 in the 2nd season.
Yeah.
But listen, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Bronwyn is that kind of fucked up. I mean, when you look at that relationship with her mom and the shit that she grew up with, like, it doesn't surprise me if she is contriving all this and this is how she feels that she needs to get the attention that she needs in her life. It is dark when you look at it like that.
To me, those three things add up to like somebody wanting a spinoff. Right?
Oh, God.
Right. So if enough, I mean, there's still something about it. Like, even if she is that fucked
compelling.
up or whatever,
Yeah.
there's still a whole group. I mean, what you're saying about the spinoff, somehow the majority still checks that box of you want a spinoff. Whereas I think the majority of people say to Elizabeth, this is you. Like, it just is what it is. And somehow, with nothing going on except one storyline of a divorce, Elizabeth is more compelling. That just tells you that we're smart as audiences, and like, we can smell through the bullshit.
For sure, because that's real life, right? Like, real life is not that you have like 5 major storylines dominating your life. Like, nobody can live that way. Real life is like you're dealing with one thing at a time, right?
Yeah. And it's also interesting that you talk about how the cast members have become kind of educated in the process and how it works. But you mentioned there as well that we as an audience have also become really educated, and we are far more discerning, and we do look at them and we can like smell the bullshit when it happens. So I think they have to work really hard. And the fact that Elizabeth has kind of broken through our defenses as like Bravo kind of diehards goes to show that actually I do think she is a really valuable member of that cast.
Me too. She's really growing on, because I really think she's authentic. This is her. Like,
because it's too complicated for it not to be. Like, the fact that she's divorcing this guy, but she still wants to. I mean, it's so, I can empathize so much with her. Obviously not the trillions of dollars and the private jets, but like, just that complexity of emotions that is obviously real because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
And honestly, my heart goes out to her.
And I think if you do grow up dirt poor, sleeping outside in like a trash bag and not knowing where your food is going to become, you do become obsessed with money if you have a ton of it. Like, I get the, like, I never want to go back there, and remember that. Like, so her thing with money is real. It's like, she's not obnoxious about it. She admits that she's obsessed with money. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's
like a natural outcome from where she was raised. Like, anybody raised that way would be that way with any amount of money, right? Like, nobody wants to go back to being that broke or that poor.
Right.
So listen, I hate to bring it back to Salt Lake City because the conversation about the OC is great, but we are slightly running out of time. So I just want to ask you, you said that, or maybe did I imagine it? I'm sure you said one of them is my friends in Salt Lake City. I know one of them, so I'll tell you about that later. Yes. Now is the time. Tell us.
Okay, so we're not friends, but this is what happens because of the Behind the Velvet Rope podcast. Everybody says to me, oh, I have a friend and blah, 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 and this one, and I ignore it all because when I hear, someone who's going to be on the Housewives, it's like, that's great. They're in the background in the corner and they're in one episode, which nothing wrong with that, but I don't need to pay attention to that. So I have a friend who's been telling me for about a year and a half now that one of her friends is one of the new Salt Lake Housewives. And I'm just like, oh, sweetie, like, whatever. I don't need to listen to this. And she's been telling me this and just like, I don't understand why you don't want to talk to this person. So finally, like, when the cast is announced and like, whatever. And my friend was like, hello. And her friend's Meredith Marks. So that's when I was like, okay, well, remember how you wanted me to talk to your friend? Like, well, now I want to talk to her. So I had to call up Meredith and be like, I'm so-and-so's really good friends. If you need any advice and all this other stuff. But that's not why because I do separate it. Like, personally, Ramona is one of the most vile human beings. I'm happy to never see her again. On the TV, she's amazing. I love watching Ramona. So I can separate like real life from like what is, so I mean, I like Meredith in the real world, but I have to say, like, there is something about her that intrigues me watching her. I think it's because she reminds me of Dorit and the way she speaks. It's her affectations. It's like, I don't understand her way of
because she's from Chicago,
herself.
Right?
It's just, it's so
if you're from
just
Chicago, you have a very distinct way of speaking, and hers is very like tuned to the generic at almost a weird level. I mean, I'm from Texas. I don't sound like I'm from Texas, but I still have an affectation to my voice where she's very. measure.
It's really weird for me because when I listen to Dorit, I still to this day cannot believe that she's American. Like the accent is so weird that I just assumed
It's
that it was almost like her
European-American.
second language. It's not even transatlantic. It's just weird. But with Meredith, it's harder for me as a Brit to hear the weirdness in her accent, because I remember you saying that first episode, like, oh my God, I can't get over accents, driving me nuts. I was like, oh, I didn't even notice it. It's so, is it just that but then I have been listening a bit more and it does sound a little bit odd now.
It sounds unreal. Like there's no place in America that you come from where your accent sounds that way. But it's not even just like TV generic American either. Like it's very thought out and very
It's like, did you study Dorit and say, I can't have that accent, I gotta have some other accent? I don't understand. And
I need a thing.
And then I'm like, well, wait, now are you trying also? Like, I'm like, is everyone here trying on this show? Like, I don't know what to say. And then I don't think Whitney is. And Whitney isn't. And yeah, you're right. Heather, I don't think is really.
No, I don't think so.
I almost feel like a Real Housewife of all Mormon wives would be more interesting. Like, very Mormon, very strict, very this is what we do. That would be more interesting to me than a bunch of people just living in Salt Lake City.
Me too. And I think that's where they've dropped the ball. And I wonder if just naturally the Mormons weren't really into it.
I mean, the Mormons don't have to be into it. Like the women can be into it because in all actuality, one of the largest places for women-owned businesses is Salt Lake City. Like all these like clothing lines and things like that come out on a lot of these websites here in America are all started by Mormon women working from the home. So it's a fascinating
That would have been more interesting.
Yeah, I definitely would have bought into that a little bit.
And then maybe have one that broke away and is like a wild drinker. Because are like the real Mormon wives, like they follow the rules, they don't drink or anything.
Yeah.
So like that's almost more interesting, and then mix in like one or two that are wild.
Yeah. Two crazies that got kicked out that are related to somebody. So they have like some sort of connection.
That would have been more, because I don't know what that looks like a true Mormon wife that I would watch with like an open mouth because it's so foreign.
Yeah, they don't.
I know. I'd love to see that.
They're raising all those kids not even on coffee.
Yeah, so that's just like I don't know. It's just like, I mean, I hope it makes it. I think I like it more than other franchises. I do. Not all, but some. So,
yeah, it's not the worst.
No,
it's not the worst.
No, and it's something like I like the way.
That's not the greatest compliment.
But like I think it's just the snow. It's the winter. Like they have that vibe. It just kind of works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, watching Jen walk into a house in snow and sandals is, I mean, you know, brilliant.
It's hilarious.
It is. Well, listen, I think that just about wraps us up. David, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure having you on our show. We're so grateful.
I will come back anytime you guys want. At some point, you need to come on my show, Behind the Velvet. And if everyone wants to listen to my show, if you want interviews with Bravolebrities and some other, we interview RuPaul Drag Race girls. Like we like to mix it up, but it's 90% Bravo. Behind the Velvet Rope on Apple Podcasts and on Instagram at Behind Velvet Rope. And Instagram is really the best place to find me. There's no thought in it's at Behind Velvet Rope or Behind the Velvet Rope. It's just interviews, and we go there. We will ask the questions we have to ask. I don't care how much I know you, or it's like when we're doing our interview, I'm going to go there if we need to uncover something.
Brilliant.
And he really does.
We'll throw all your links into the notes so everybody can find you there as well.
That would be amazing.
We will do. Make sure that you go and follow David. And thank you so much for giving us your time. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
You guys are so much fun. We'll keep in touch.
Thanks, David.
Definitely. See you soon.
Right. Bye, guys.
Please subscribe, rate, and review TV My Husband Hates wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at TV My Husband Hates and join the Facebook group to keep the conversation going when the podcast ends. If Twitter's your thing, you'll find us at TV Husbands Hate. Theme music and production for TV My Husband Hates is by Jimmy Sims.